They say some battles are fought with bullets, some with words, and some with forged paperwork, orange cones, and enough HOA lawyers to fill a clown car. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a bunch of strangers show up and try to steal something you built? Something you poured your sweat and savings into using nothing but lies, legal threats, and a bad attitude? Because that's what happened to me, and if you think you just let it slide, you haven't met me. Picture this. I'd just moved onto my slice of Colorado hillside. 20 acres, fresh mountain air, pine sap clinging to the breeze. The kind of place that makes you forget about the traffic, the emails, the whole Texas DOT grind I'd left behind after 20-something years. I was looking for peace, a place where the only schedule was sunrise, sunset, and maybe when to refill my coffee pot. But the road up to my new cabin, calling it a road was generous. It was more like a memory, a pair of tire ruts mangled by rain and years of neglect, the kind of thing that chews up your suspension and your spirit one pothole at a time. After bottoming out my old truck for the third day in a row, I figured enough was enough. So I drew up the plans, hired a local crew, and we set about pouring a driveway worthy of a man's dignity. Grading, drainage, culverts, the works. 3 months and a small fortune later, I had a concrete ribbon winding up through the trees, smooth as a promise. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel a little pride every time I drove up it, coffee in hand, morning sun blazing across the ridge. For a while, that was my life. Simple, satisfying. Then one morning I open my mailbox and find this envelope official, looking like the kind you get from the IRS when they're about to ruin your day. Ridge Pine Peaks Homeowners Association, it said at the top. Now, I didn't live in Ridge Pine Peaks. That was a good 2 miles downslope, a gated fortress for retirees who lose sleep over garden gnomes that don't match the HOA guidelines. I didn't know a soul there, and I sure as hell hadn't used any of their community infrastructure. But this letter claimed I owed them $100 for exactly that. I actually laughed at first, thought it was a mix-up. You've been using Ridge Pine Peaks Transportation Network, it said, as if my pickup had learned to teleport over their flower beds. My driveway starts on my land, ends on my land, and you'd need a telescope just to see their property line from my porch. So like any reasonable person, I tossed the letter on the counter and told myself I'd sort it out later. 5 days go by, another envelope. This one's got final warning stamped in red. Now the amount's higher and the tone, it's like they hired someone who gets paid by the threat. Enforcement action will be taken, it says. So I call the number hoping for a human. Instead, I get a robot asking if I'd like to report unauthorized Christmas decorations. I hang up. The next day I realize this isn't a clerical error, it's the opening act of a very dumb war. I'm driving down to the county highway, windows down, admiring the road I built when a big white SUV blocks the exit. Guy gets out in a security vest, looking like he's auditioning for a low-budget action movie. "Sir, you are not authorized to use this road," he says. I stare at him. I built this road. He just shrugs, reciting the same line about community infrastructure. I tell him not so politely that if he doesn't move, I'll have the sheriff here in 10 minutes. He leaves slow enough that I get a good look at that shiny HOA badge. Now I know this is more than a paperwork mistake. So I head straight to the county office. The clerk pulls up a map on her screen, my whole driveway outlined in red, marked as part of Ridge Pine Peaks. According to the file, my land is now part of their community. I feel like I'm staring at a magic trick, except the punchline's expensive. Back home, I lay out every deed survey permit, every scrap of proof that what's mine is mine. My road sits a good 40 yards from their property line. But the map at the county office says otherwise. A neat snaking line just swallowing up my driveway. That's not a clerical mistake. That's someone rewriting the map to steal what you built. The next morning, I asked the county for a certified copy. The document's signed supposedly by me and 2 others. I look at the scribble next to my name. I haven't signed my name in cursive since I failed high school penmanship. So I text a photo to a buddy from Texas who does forensic stuff. 20 minutes later, he calls. That's a trace job. They copied it from something, maybe your license. It's a bad fake, but it'll fool most people. Now I'm mad. And things only get weirder. That afternoon, I get home and there's a shiny new gate across the bottom of my driveway, a parking lot barrier, keypad, private community road sign. I stand there for a good minute just staring. I don't know whether to laugh or throw up. Instead, I film everything top to bottom, even launch my drone to get aerial shots. no connections, no crossings, just my road and their blockade. I call the sheriff. Deputy shows up polite but non-committal. I shove all my papers at him, point at the gate. This is obstruction. My land. My road. He frowns, admits it looks fishy, but all he can do is file a report, maybe get code enforcement involved. You'll want to bring this to court, he says. I thank him, grab my bolt cutters, and in 10 minutes that gate is in a ditch. All on camera just in case. Next day I get another letter, this one hand-delivered. They want $368 for damaging community access infrastructure. No signature, just compliance officer. They still call me resident like I live in their fantasy land instead of 50 feet above with my dog asphalt and a 12-gauge. By now I've hired a lawyer. Sylvia. Sharp as a tack, never met a loophole she couldn't tie into a noose. She looks over my pile of evidence and just shakes her head. They're nuts. But we'll bury them. She tells me file an injunction, cease and desist, get ready to counter-sue. She explains their play, create a fake paper trail, provoke me into doing something rash, then claim I'm a threat. I tell her too late. I already cut their gate. She smirks. Good. Now we're not playing defense. A few days pass. The road's quiet, but I get the feeling I'm being watched. Cars idle near the driveway. Once I catch a guy with a telephoto lens and a silver Lexus. I wave. He looks away. They're not done, just hiding in the shadows. That feeling. When you realize someone's trying to turn your life upside down, and the world might believe them because they have the paperwork that gets into your bones. Next morning, I'm back at the courthouse with Sylvia. We're filing paperwork thicker than a brick. She's hired a surveyor, real pro, 6-foot tripod, and a permanent squint who spends 2 days tracing every inch of my boundary. His verdict. Their map's fiction. My land never touched theirs. My road never crossed a single inch of their so-called infrastructure. But get this. He recognizes the name on their fake expansion, Jeremy Cross. Didn't he get busted for falsifying property lines? Sylvia asks. Sure enough, the guy lost his license for running the same scam in another county. We add that to the growing mountain of evidence. That's when things escalate. My trail cam catches 2 guys on my driveway, one with a crowbar, one with a clipboard. By the time I get down there, they're gone, but they've bashed in the edge of my drainage culvert, scattered gravel, left tire tracks. Even dropped a candy wrapper with the HOA landscaper's logo. Subtle right, I document everything, call the deputy, who looks more serious this time. He says this could be felony vandalism. I get an estimate $12 grand to fix it all. We add that to the suit. By week's end, I'm suing Ridge Pine Peak's HOA for over $2 million obstruction, fraud, harassment, property destruction. I half expect them to back down. Instead, they sue me right back, accusing me of blocking community infrastructure and causing hardship. They even attach a satellite photo of my road labeled as their community arterial. But the photos from before my driveway even existed. You can't make this stuff up. At this point, it's not just about my road. They want to break me, make me give up so they can keep running the same scam on someone else. The night after the gravel stunt, I hear scraping down by the culvert. Grab my boots, my flashlight, my sidearm, and creep down the slope. Catch 3 figures chiseling at my road. I hit them with the light and they scatter, dropping tools as they sprint for a truck. By morning, I find the new damage, more cracked, spray-painted X's. Systematic sabotage. That afternoon, I get a call from a guy named Harris Brinkley, a landscaper who used to work for the HOA. They paid me cash to dump gravel on your road, he says. I refused. Others didn't. I ask if he'll give a statement. He hesitates but eventually says yes. That's the turning point. Next morning, more debris dumped on my drive, old lumber, rusty nails, bags of yard waste. Community right-of-way spray painted on a plank. I don't touch a thing, just fly the drone and call Sylvia. She files for an emergency restraining order. Judge grants it within a day, forbidding any HOA officer or contractor from setting foot near my property. For a minute, I breathe easier. But 2 days later, there's a new sign by the road: caution, unauthorized private road. Use at your own risk. Red paint, crooked letters. I just drive right by. But they're not done. They come up the drive, board members, a new lawyer trying to hand me a cease and desist for visual pollution and environmental disruption. I just point to my drone still spinning overhead, filming every smirk and eye roll. They leave their smiles cracking. You know what's funny? They never expected me to keep fighting. They thought a little paperwork and a few threats would scare me off. Instead, every time they escalated, I doubled down. And then comes their boldest move yet. 3 construction trucks and a bobcat pull up, unloading gravel right onto my engineered slope. HOA President Karen Fowles in her sun hat is directing traffic like she owns the county. I call the sheriff again. When they see me dialing, they pack up in a hurry. The deputy's face says it all: blatant violation. That night, Harris shows up at my door ready to testify. He lays out the whole story: unlicensed contractors, forged inspection reports, cash payoffs. Karen's plan: use my road as a wedge to force everyone nearby into the HOA charge. New fees take control. He signs an affidavit on my kitchen table. Sylvia's ecstatic. Now we're not just looking at civil court. This smells like fraud and maybe racketeering. We file everything with the DA. Within days, the county slaps the HOA with a cease work order. Sheriff's department threatens arrests for any more stunts. Karen gets desperate, starts mailing the neighborhood, spinning stories about how I'm blocking public access. But the neighbors don't buy it. Some even offer to testify for me. We get a certified survey with 3D overlays, proves my road's 100% on my land. Their expansion map crosses into 3 other properties. Signatures are forged. We file for criminal investigation. Karen gets subpoenaed for deposition. She lasts 39 minutes before pleading the 5th. That's the moment the house of cards begins to collapse. And then one morning I wake up to the sound of jackhammers. 4 guys in unmarked jumpsuits are cutting into my driveway claiming emergency utility access. I don't even yell. I just film every second. Sheriff arrives, arrests the lot of them. Turns out they were hired by Karen, who's already got a history of pulling this sort of stunt. Now the DA's office freezes the HOA's funds. The judge declares their fake map void, their bank accounts frozen. Karen. She gets arrested outside a nail salon, fraud, conspiracy, document tampering. The local news eats it up. HOA president arrested in road scam. I don't even smile. I just feel tired, bone deep, world weary, but finally at peace. Even then, the fight isn't over. The HOA tries to sue me for emotional distress. We get it dismissed. County recertifies my road as private, untouchable. The HOA dissolves. My driveway is safe, but I'm not about to let this happen to anyone else. So I file for a new county rule, the Travis Road Act. Any private road built and surveyed on private land can't be claimed by an HOA. 3 months later, it passes. 6 months and it's law statewide. Now there's a new sign at the bottom of my drive. Private road. Built, owned, and defended by C. Travis. Trespassers will be sued. It cost me more than $130,000 a year of hell and more gray hair than my divorce, but it's mine. And no one's going to take it, not with a map, not with a lawsuit, not ever. You know, sometimes the only way to keep what's yours is to stand up. Keep your records tight and refuse to let the bullies win, even if the bullies wear suits and carry clipboards instead of baseball bats. So let me ask you, since you've listened this far, where do you draw the line? When does defending what's rightfully yours become a responsibility, not just a right? Ever faced an HOA board or some self-appointed authority that tried to push you off your own ground? Tell me your story, or tell me where you stand. I built my road. What would you do if they came for yours?